the bottom line is, everybody here is tired, right, of judging, evaluating, trying to fix, trying to perfect, other people, right? This is something that is universal. This is something that plagues every human being, and the truth is that, scholars have been writing about this for thousands of years, right? The inner critic of the mind. So the next 2 hours, I'm going to give you ammunition to dethrone this inner critic. Our inner critics are always waiting in the wings, right? She's always waiting in the wings to really bite us in the butt, right? She knows exactly what to say to trigger us. So in order to recognize the difference between her and us, we've got to get very intimately familiar with her. Who is she? What does she say to us that triggers us? And that's what we're going to be doing today. Because when you can see her as separate from you, you take away her power, right? You take away, right now, you and your inner critic are one and the same. There's no difference. You listen to that voice in your mind, that's constantly telling you, you need to fix this, you need to perfect this, you need to get better at this, you need to be different at that, right? And for those, I want you to think about how long this inner critic has been in your life, okay? And I want you to consider that it may be possible that if you think back, you may not even remember a time where your inner critic wasn't there, okay? So you had a second grade version of this inner critic, right? Little Susie or Jimmy didn't want to play with you on the playground. There was your inner critic telling you why. You had a 10th grade version of it. Thank you. You had a 10th grade version of it, right? Maybe if you failed this course, or right, something happened where the boy didn't ask you out, or the girl didn't want to, be your boyfriend be your girlfriend anymore, okay? You had your young adult version of this, okay? You have your now version of it, but you want to start considering that your inner critic has been saying the same thing. It's different versions of the exact same thing. It never changes. But we don't interact with it like it's the same thing throughout our lives. We act like what she's saying is real and true. And then we operate in our lives trying to overcompensate for that. Do you all see that? So I want you to think about how much time and energy you all spend interpreting and analyzing and labeling everything in your life because of what this inner critic is saying. And you've never stopped to consider that that's not you. That she or he was literally invented when you guys were about this big. And that's when you first started paying attention. You don't even need to know where your inner critic came from, okay? But if you know it's been there with you for your entire lives and it's never changed, maybe you could start to consider the possibility, maybe it's not real. That you've been relating to it like it's real, and maybe it's not real. That your negative description of yourself is actually her or him talking. It's not really you. See, how your inner critic gets established, okay? Is that your inner critic is all about perfection. So if you think about what you're striving for in whatever areas in your life are important to you and what you're striving for, okay? Your inner critic is all about the perfect, ideal version of you. Does that make sense? And you won't be fulfilled until you meet that picture of what she says you have to be, okay? So here, right here, is perfection, right? Right here is your inner critic telling you where you're enough. And getting right here, not good enough, right? So if you've accomplished a tremendous amount, right? You've had accomplishments, you've had success, you've had good things happen. But it doesn't matter because you're not here, right? Does that make sense? Right? And so she's got you striving and racing for this level of perfection in whatever that level is for you that you are never ever going to accomplish because she's unrealistic. She tells you who you need to be and what you need to do in your life, okay? And not only that, but she also tells you what the people in your life need to look like, right? So she doesn't just impact you, okay? Sometimes you project your perfectionism onto other people in your life. You need your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your partner. You need them to look a particular way in order for you to feel okay. You need your kids to show up in the world looking a particular way. They need to get these kinds of grades or be this kind of success, right? In order for you to be okay. And God forbid if they don't, right? If they're here, but they're not there, oh boy, right? We get on them, don't we? Yeah. So this is where suffering occurs. This is where suffering occurs because we're never satisfied and at peace and content with where we are. She hustles you to prove your worth. She's constantly about what do you need to fix, what do you need to change, what's the next level, what do you need to better. She robs you. Who said that before? You said that, yeah. She robs you of your joy. She robs you of your value. She robs you of your worth. She robs you of your abilities. She robs you of your achievements, right? Lauren, you are a competitive athlete, right? So when you get to a certain level right, and you feel really good, it doesn't last. You're on to the next one, right? Yep, that's a perfect example. How and where does she impact your life? So you want to think about when she's running the show, when she's calling the shots, what's your mood? What's your irritability level? What's your energy level? Are you tired? Are you cranky? Are you run down? Do you want to withdraw? Do you want to just turn the TV on and just veg out and zone out? You don't even care what you're watching, just flip through the channels, right? Does your inner critic make you stay on Facebook too long? Does your inner critic make you want to go to sleep? Okay? And then of course, there's your inner critic when she's running the show that makes you want to eat too much, drink too much, right? These are all ways that we numb ourselves. Okay? On a deeper level, this is where addiction comes from. Right? When we use things, substances, some people use exercise to numb them, some people use work to numb them, but the bottom line is they're using something to get them away from this. And the more we do this, I am not going to look at that. I'm going to keep myself busy and crazy and overcommitted because I do not want to see that, okay? And then what happens is whatever this is, runs you. There's the hamster wheel. You got to keep running away from this. You want to start paying attention to your reactions to things in your life because you're never upset about what you think you're upset about. Underneath, she's saying something. Your partner ate the last chocolate donut, and that means he doesn't care about me, I'm not important enough, nothing that I do makes a difference, I don't matter enough. If he really cared about me, if he really loved me, he would know that I love chocolate donuts. Do you see how that works? Okay. How do you regain her power? How do you separate yourself from her? Okay? And the answer to that is you need to catch her in the act. You need to watch her put you down, perfect you, make you get to that next level. You need to, what you're doing when you're observing her, okay, you're stepping back and observing this crazy person do its thing. Yep. So what you're doing in that moment of stepping back and observing your inner critic is you're can't say this word, short-circuiting her power. One of the things that can be a little hard about this is that, and I mentioned this before, you know, our inner critics have given us a lot of success too, okay? Because that person that decided to get 4 PhDs, okay, because he wasn't good enough or he wasn't smart enough, right? That's a pretty good level of success, right? Or Lauren, you mentioned the success and accomplishments that you've had in being an athlete, right? So we've gotten a tremendous amount from this inner critic, okay? We've been on the hamster wheel and we keep going and going and going. The reason why some of you are here, what might have drawn you to this workshop is because you're just kind of sick and tired of no matter how many accomplishments you have, you still don't feel great about yourself, right? And that's usually what happens is we're on this hamster wheel, and when we're really young, we think like there is an arrival point. And we keep going and we keep going. And then at some point we've had most accomplishments, we've checked a lot of things off, and then we hit the brick wall and we're like, oh, I did everything, or almost everything, that I thought was gonna bring me happiness and joy, and I'm still not there. What the heck, right? Okay. So, you know, earlier in the workshop, I talked about your relationship with yourself, right? And how that's so crucial for your relationship to everybody else. So you can start to see how your inner critic can run your relationships with other people. Can you start to see that? So when you create the space between you and your inner critic, this is what alters your relationship to yourself. Can you guys see that? That you literally have a different relationship to yourself when all of a sudden the inner critic that you've been listening to is not real, is a crazy person, is delusional, is made up of fantasies, okay? So if that's not you, then what is you? So if you take that part away, what are you left with? So you want to start seeing it as a story, not the truth. You are the author, not your inner critic. Your inner critic wrote a work of fiction, not an autobiography. And you've been relating to that story like it's as real as this table. Okay? So I've been talking a lot about separating yourself from her and the space that that creates, the freedom that that creates. Inside of that space, all of a sudden there's nothing, right? And you can start to see in that space that you are enough right now, exactly who you are, exactly who you aren't, that there's nothing to fix, there's nothing to change, there's nowhere to get to. So are you starting to see how much your inner critic creates your suffering? And when you create that freedom, when you create that distance, there's really not a whole lot of suffering. Everything just is, right? It's not good, it's not bad, it's not right, it's not wrong. It just is. So there's nothing that's more important to true growth than realizing that you are not your mind. You're the one that hears your mind, your inner critic. But you are separate from your mind. Can some of you start to almost feel what that might be like going out into your lives, no longer listening to this as real and true?